You're watching our live and continuing coverage of the blockbuster budget roundtable. I want to introduce now Rahul Bajaj from Bajaj Auto. Sir, I want you to pick out this and this and tell our viewers whether you're giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and how many marks are you giving Arun Jaitley?
How many marks I'm giving?
How many marks are you giving? How many marks are you giving it?
In the circumstances, thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
And in the circumstances, I would give him 6 to 7.
6.5.
Okay, 6.5.
We don't have decimals. So 6 or 7?
Make up my mind. 6.
6. Why 6?
Why not 7?
That's very conservative. Why 6?
Why not 6?
You tell us why 6.
First of all, I don't see really any reason why it should not be 6 or 7. There's nothing negative in this budget. And I'm an independent industrialist, neither Congress nor BJP, but we all know this government was left with hardly anything. Yes. A high fiscal deficit, a high current account deficit, a high rate of inflation, and in 45 days now they say great expectations, and they have not been satisfied. Now, they didn't say please build up your expectations. There was a great campaign by the present Prime Minister, great campaign, and that built up the expectations. I'm sorry to be sounding very pro-him, but not that I am pro-him, but I'm going by what I heard in my friend Mr. Jaitley's speech. And my negatives are that I don't know what will happen where. Inflation will come down by December or March. From what to what? Now, I don't expect it to come down from 9 to 6 or 5. It's impossible. I would say it's impossible. But कुछ तो डेटलाइन दो, कुछ तो specificity बताओ. I'm told, he didn't say it in the speech, but I'm told by somebody that the CSR expenditure is a minor point maybe, but it's a major point for corporates. Not only as before, it is pre-tax and not after tax, but that we knew already. But we were trying to get him to agree. He has not agreed. Fair enough, but it's not tax deductible.
The industrialists
on the table... You tell me to spend, and then you say it's not tax deductible. I didn't agree with the earlier government. I don't agree with him. Small point, because I'm interested in that. So I'm not saying what it should be. He said, defense, okay, I'm not connected with that. There are lots of defense types here. Then he said something about insurance. I am an insurance type. There's somebody else probably with insurance here. And he said 26 goes to 49 with complete Indian management control. I want to understand what that means. Till now I had 74. I had complete management control. If I did, so it's 51 I have. Why do you mention it? The reason I'm asking is 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I read in the newspaper that the finance ministry has circulated a paper with the cabinet that they'll increase it to 49. Now maybe it's wishful thinking, but the Indian partner will appoint the CEO and the voting right will be only 26. I'm not saying that's right or that's good, but that's what I read in the papers.
The industrialists on our budget roundtable seem excited, and they seem quite happy, Ashwini Kumar, that instead of the Congress, it's the BJP making the budget. Everybody seems relieved that the bad times are over with the Congress government out, and the BJP is here trying to set things right.
Well, why don't you see the speeches?
How many marks are you giving the budget?
Why don't you see the speeches of the last budgets of all the very distinguished friends here? They said the same thing about the same budget. So that doesn't surprise me. It is unexpected lines. And now what I'm going to say, you're going to say, well, what you are going to say is also unexpected lines. But I'm speaking here not only as a congressperson, yes, as a congressperson, but also as a citizen of this country. I can tell you this. I had much greater expectations from my good friend Mr. Arun Jaitley. I had hoped that he would be able to translate into concrete and specific action the great hype that his leader was able to build in the run-up to the elections. The people of this country who were fed a dream have a right to see some indications of that dream being fulfilled. I see none of them. I give him a total thumbs up to the extent that he has carried forward with all the initiatives of the UPA government. What is the novelty in this budget? What is the inspiring indicator in this budget that would catch the imagination of the country? I see none. I wish I could see one as a citizen of this country, but I don't see anything in that. Look at the symbolisms, and I say decisively, and I say advisedly and consciously, fraudulent symbolism. 100 crore rupees from madrasas, 200 crore rupees for Sardar Patel's statues. I have nothing against the statue. I'm very happy for it. But 100 crore rupees for the agricultural infrastructure fund, 100 crore rupees. What can you do with a fund of that size, or the nucleus of 100 crores, where you have a challenge of an economy where 30.6 13.6% of our GDP comes from agriculture. 500 crore rupees only for the agriculture price stabilization fund. What was the point?
Okay, you're saying lots of
symbolism?
small things. How many marks are you giving the budget?
I'm not getting into the marks game. I'm not a professor to do marks. But let me tell you this. I wished Arun had done better. I thought he could do better. But this is a missed opportunity, and I'm sorry for it.
Union Farm Minister Piyush Goyal is with us. The industrialists across the table seem to feel that there could have been more. The budget, they feel, has been found wanting. In terms of the expectations that had built up around the budget, they're saying it's essentially a continuation of what the UPA was already doing. Where's the big ticket imagination?
राहुल, हर बजट में दिल मांगे मोह वो सेंटिमेंट तो होना ही चाहिए. And ultimately, I don't think we are a country that stops aspiring for more and better. But I think the mess that we inherited and what we were saddled with, the headroom to be able to make significant changes was only more in policy than in money. The fact is that this is a policy-oriented budget. It talks long-term. It lays a roadmap where this government is going to go going forward. And I think the big picture of this budget is that finally in this country, you're going to see predictability of governance. You're going to see a government which focuses itself on actually creating infrastructure and jobs and not just pure welfare for the sake of doling out doles or distributing money. Incidentally, just to respond, if you don't mind, to what my very senior colleague just mentioned, he has run government for 10 years and I'm sure he understands how budgets are made far better than I do. But with my limited understanding, the fund that he referred to is a fund that is being created to set a new scheme for segregating feeder lines, distribution lines related to my sector in motion. A fund which is going to be finally working with the states to create a new distribution network. It's a state subject. As and when more states come on board and take that benefit of that fund, I've been assured by the finance minister of any amount of money required to make that happen. Our dream is 24/7 power for every Indian.
By when?
Within the 5 years that the government, the people have given us. And I'm very confident we can achieve it. But when you announce a fund like this, you make a nominal provision, and then as the fund develops its whole scheme,
no, but there was one key question, and I want you to listen to
I just wanted to clarify to you
just to put the record
what the fund initiates.
No, just to put the record straight. I was not referring to the 500 crores in the power sector. I have yet to make a point on that. I was referring to the agricultural price stabilization fund.
We're trying.
I was not talking about power. But even on power, now that you made a point, 24/7 rural electricity to all villages with a nucleus of 500 crore, and you know the size
It's not a nucleus, it's a fund announcement.
Yes,
just provide the nominal amount.
Here's what I think. Just give me a moment.
Project for which there has been
one second.
funding much earlier.
I know all of it.
NK, one thing. One second. The segregation of the feeders, which you're talking about, has already been done in Gujarat, has been done in Maharashtra, has been done in Karnataka, in Haryana, it has been done in many states.
8 states.
So appreciate. So 8
to be
big states we're talking about. So there's nothing wrong.
It hasn't happened in UP,
No, I appreciate.
Bihar.
No. I'm not taking away any good initiative which you're doing. Fine, appreciate that. Please go ahead and do that. The devil is not in about the segregation. It is about the production of power, the quality of power, and the transmission and distribution of power, of which only what you're talking is a very small element of that. The problem is, I wish, and I'm not trying to say that it's an easy job, wasn't easy for the previous government, won't be easy for you also. But with good intentions, what has happened, you see, in the entire infrastructure we've talked about, all you've given is a little bit more money to an already existing highway program, which is tried and tested. You're giving it more money, good enough. You're just giving a little bit more money to PMGSY. Again, a program tried, tested, you're giving it a little bit more money. The question here is of how do we really get the quality of power, the quantity of power, and setting the sector right. I think on those fronts,
Just give me a moment.
I prefaced it before you joined that I appreciated the budget and on many counts. So let's not don't look at me. Don't look at me as some opposition, politician talking to you. I was just trying to be very objective before you came, and I still am trying to be only objective to the point is that I wish the detailing of your initiatives over the next 5 years. We're not even talking of 1 year. Should have been a little bit more specific and should have been a little bit more realistic And I wish if that was there, it would have been a little bit, I would say, an extra fillip for everybody to be confident about the future.
I'll explain the two things that you flagged off very quickly, power and the roads. Why the roads needed more money and more predictability in the system was because in the past, with so many problems, the road sector has come to a standstill. And the PPP model, which was advocated a lot, is currently in a state of flux. Most road developers have withdrawn from projects, case in point sitting in front of us.
Model concession agreements basically have a lacuna which needs to be rectified.
The new effort that we are doing
The point
is to bring in
on the contracting
Yeah.
issues, the degree of transparency which is to be introduced. And don't forget, that's not only a question of resources, Praful. There's a question of stranded assets on the road.
True.
These stranded assets are there because you have the money.
And as regards power,
not
you
making
made
progress.
3 or 4 big ticket announcements. One is made a big announcement that every power plant which is ready up to 31st March 2015 will be given coal supply.
Very
That's
important.
something which hasn't happened, and everybody has been making all sorts
But
of...
you got to ensure that the coal is there.
Well, we'll have to supplement
As
coal.
I say, you have got to ensure the coal
Yeah,
is there.
Kapil, if for the last 5 years we hadn't had stagnated coal production because of whatever reasons you and I are all aware of, possibly this situation would not have come to this pass. So we have a situation where we'll have to increase coal, for which we're already working. Environmental clearances are expedited.
Piyush, that's why you should
Quality
announce
improvement.
how you're going to give new coal concessions to people, how you're going to encourage foreign direct investment in the mining of the coal in the country, how will you increase the production. I think those specifics should have been a little bit better spent.
No, the picture is coal doesn't have to be privatized only to increase coal production. Coal environmental clearances are the bottleneck. The court cases because of erstwhile corruption is the bottleneck. It's not a problem that the coal is not there.
Okay.
Coal is there, but I cannot mine it because they're all in litigation.
What I need to do...
monopoly, that's the problem.
The key question that was uppermost in everyone's mind was, will this budget revive investor sentiment? We've got some of India's biggest investors around this roundtable. I want to ask Sunil Kantmunjal first. Do you feel more confident? Indian industry was taking its money abroad. Will we see that trend reverse? Will you invest back in the India growth story?
I think there are two things one can see through this budget speech that we saw. One, of course, it was the longest speech one has heard in a very long time. But I also think it was very long. And I agree with Arun. When the speech was going on, I was wondering, what is he actually trying to do? He's taking up so many micro issues with little allocations. But as you sit back and think about it, what he's done is he's covered a full spectrum of all aspects of life for agriculture, average citizen, industry. So everybody's got their concerns addressed in this budget speech. The question really is going to be about the ability to implement and execute all of these quickly and with timeliness.
So will this bring more foreign direct investment into India, which is on a downward
spiral? If you're
spiral?
able to, it will bring more investment. If you're able to bring the sense of confidence in India that the ability to set up a new enterprise becomes easier, and the ability to operate a new existing enterprise becomes easier, of course more money will come in. And by the way, we only need Indians to invest. Once Indians are investing, foreign investment is going to come regardless.
Rahul Bajaj,
We are
will
a very
this
good
revive
market.
investor sentiment? Will everyone be bullish about the India growth story once more?
I would think so, but though I'm not personally involved, but not abolishing the thing which Mr. Pranab Mukherjee did in his budget was a letdown.
Why didn't you do that, Piyush?
Well, I think doing it now would have been one more retroactive amendment. So it didn't make
signal
sense.
that that's the end of the
It didn't make
retrospective tax.
sense.
You
It
said you
didn't
lent
make
tax
sense to
terrorism.
bring in further unpredictability into the system. In fact, he has taken 3 major steps. A, he said we'll let the courts decide, and I think that will bring a finality to whatever is pending in the courts. B, he said those cases which are not in litigation, we'll set up a committee to quickly scrutinize it and sort it out. And 3, he has proposed to enlarge the scope of the Income Tax Settlement Commission so that taxpayers may approach that commission for settlement of disputes. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for any taxpayer to completely bring an end to all his tax disputes. That's what he
said that, but I don't understand.
Mr. Sanjay Reddy, will this revive investor confidence? Instead of people exiting projects, will this make people feel, okay, let's go back and invest in the India story?
I think so, because, first of all, we've seen that this government is only 45 days old. So I think we have to give them a bit of time more. So there's a lot of intent here, but they've also covered a comprehensive areas. And the way I look at it is that they've planted a lot of seeds, and we have only 8 months left in the year. So it depends on which grow faster. I'm sure government will put more money after that. So I see that they're trying to cover as many areas as possible, especially in infrastructure. I think there's been a lot of focus and attention, which is absolutely critical, on financing, on setting up the 3P India model, which is talking about reinventing the entire PPP story. That is required because, now we're doing bits and pieces that will not work. We need to rethink the whole model. And once that is done in a comprehensive manner, I see clearly investors are going to come back.
Naushad, folks, your sense.
So, I think the budget was very good on principles. I think it was somewhat weak on the specifics and the implementation, and I think therefore you need to actually ask that question in 3 months or 6 months. In 3 months' time, if we see many specifics in place where the principles are turning into reality on the ground, then it's going to turn investment around in a big way, it's going to turn sentiment around in a big way. In itself, I don't think it does.
You're saying by itself, the budget doesn't.
The budget itself.
But the
in
nuts
itself,
and the bolts.
But I think that's right. I think so.
I'm not so confident we'll have such a huge increase in the manufacturing sector, in spite of all the announcements. And the reason is like this. If I look at the auto industry from which I represent, we've had terrible 2 years, last 2 years, one of the worst we've ever had. And about 70,000 crores was invested in the industry in the last 5 years. We have excess capacity running to about 40% of the industry. So commercial vehicles is in a mess. They're running at like 25% below 2 years ago. So to get this back up is important for the manufacturing sector. The auto industry is really the engine of growth for and the driver for the capital goods, for a whole host of things. And unless the demand picks up or we do something to increase the demand in the auto sector, I see the manufacturing sector is not going to pick up that.
That demand is a function of the economy.
Yeah. It's function of the economy, but there are things we can do.
See, the of the economy.
Yes, but there's low-hanging fruit. Sorry. Yeah. Excuse me, there are low-hanging fruits. A lot of countries have used fleet modernization plans. Many things have been done. We have suggested many things to the government how to quickly boot up the vehicle sector, and it will make a big difference in jobs and in the economy.
We were working very closely, Vikram and us on this issue, and unfortunately the finance ministry then did not see much reason or support us the way we wanted it. But actually what he's saying is right. Even now in this budget, we really don't see any of those specifics being addressed. Maybe for shortage of time, but on lack of full understanding of the issue.
The excise benefit, which
number two, most importantly, for the auto sector, the reduction of interest rates. You see, ultimately, every automobile in India is being bought on an EMI. And when the EMI, the interest rates don't come down, there is no mention of that or no indication of that. But that affects the auto industry in terms of the buying pattern.
That also affects the investment.
Okay, I want to ask Mr. Ajay, given the fact that so many foreign investors were really turned off the India story, do you see the effort that Piyush and Mr. Jaitley and the Prime Minister have made changing that? Or do you think they'll still be circumspect?
I think it is changing the sentiment, and I'm not taking only the budget document per se. I'm taking the actions taken by the government in the last 35 days also. If you see, the government is looking at bringing about positive changes in the running of the economy virtually every day or every second day. So I think the budget document per se is not the end of it all. I think changes are going to continue happening. Where they are setting a groundwork now, for instance, you take investment allowance. That's a very positive. In terms of industrial parks, corridors, look at the focus on agri. Ultimately all these, when you're talking about demand build-up, demand has to come from every individual in the country. It's not only manufacturing. FDI has opened up, whether it's defense, whether it's insurance, e-commerce. These are things which were blocked earlier. They've all been opened up now. So I think it's a positive direction, and I think the sentiment in the country has changed.
Mr. Puri, do you see sentiment change in the back of this budget?
1 month.
Or do you think it stops short of actually reviving sentiment?
I think that it'll still make people wait to see what else the government does. I think it's one step, but not such a large step. And I think the fact that the government is only in power for a short period of time is, of course, something in their favor. But I'm really looking for structural change in the economy. I'm looking for structural change in the way taxes are administered, collected, and so forth. I didn't see this in this budget, right? Or didn't see it clearly. The economic survey had a clearer declaration of intent and vision. Now, if some of that can be translated, that farmers can sell their produce anywhere, that there will be no planning commission, there will be a productivity commission, that there will be a monitoring of ministries. So this economic survey, if they can translate that into budget and administrative
Why couldn't that
action,
happen, Piyush?
I don't understand. I think in terms of structural change, I think one of the biggest structural changes is the number of ministers we have now vis-a-vis the number of ministers we had in the past. I think that's the structural change. I think they are adding 10 to 15 hours coming in. So I think that's where start for that.
One of the points that has come up
better coordination and that will help.
About investors' confidence, a lot has been said. I want to make a point that investor confidence in any country is a function of our ability to give an ease of functioning to the entrepreneurs. What has been indicated in the budget that says, as Mr. Puri said, there will be less governance, there will be less complicated procedures, nothing whatsoever. Therefore,
I think I need
to respond to that.
No, you respond, but I've not finished. The other point, as Mr. Manjul said, a lot of things were addressed on a micro basis in a very long budget speech. I have nothing against it. But as we say in a court of law, the weight of the argument is never to be measured by its length. The fact that so many things were said really made it into a potpourri of so many things without nothing very concrete or specific. It was a good statement of intent on certain counts. For example, venture capital fund of 5,000 crores is a good step.
10,000.
But 10,000 crores is a good step. But all other things
taxes, making a
administered by the government.
That's a very tangible step, actually.
Venture capital fund administered by the government, if they administer the 10,000 crores a year, I can guarantee you great stories of scandals for us 3 years from now.
Just to set the perspective, I think
we'll all be sharpening the knives
one point being missed in this whole debate is the policy statement that a budget is supposed to reflect only gives a direction. What I do now in my power ministry, how I bring about policy changes, how I run the ministry to make all that happen,